We'll continue with the next session of today, where we will have 3 testimonials on the lessons learned from the activities within the SMaRT-EU program, which will be Igor Kanižaj. I hope I pronounced your name well. We have Marju Himma-Kadakas with us and Angela Karadog. But first, we'll start with Igor. Igor is an associate professor at the University of Zagreb, Faculty of Political Science, Department of Journalism and Media Production. He's also vice president of the Association for Communication and Media Culture, DKMK, and together with his associates, he's coordinating the project DKMK, the biggest media education project in Croatia, with more than 1,300 workshops held for 33,000 participants in Croatia from 2011. That's a lot. Igor, we are very happy to have you here with us, and we are eager to learn more from your experience on participative activities with local intergenerational communities.
Thank you, Joyce, and thank you for this introduction, and welcome to all my colleagues that participated in this project, but also for others that are right here today with us. I will show you maybe the most important things that we have done within this project. And I definitely can say that this was maybe one of the most interesting projects we had and that I participated in. Fix it. So participative activities were maybe the key point of the O2 activities, and we have prepared, organized and implemented intergenerational workshops on 6 topics in Portugal, Spain, Belgium, Estonia, Croatia and UK. Maybe one of the most interesting things that we have learned and definitely implemented was the innovative approach, where we have engaged students of journalism and communication science together with professionals to empower seniors, primarily seniors in retirement homes and in foundations that work with them. We have also seen the urgent need to provide long-term support to seniors in critical media literacy. This was definitely one of the most important outcomes that we learned within this project. And especially in our direct communication, face-to-face, one-on-one, as Maria Jose already mentioned, we had the biggest challenge, just like most of you participated and witnessed. The pandemic has caused so many changes in our European projects because we were not able to deliver the workshops as planned. And we needed to find another approach that was not planned in advance. And definitely when we thought of the possibility to have one-on-one individual consultations, we saw this as a great opportunity to include even more, and even in times of pandemic, those that definitely need to have that kind of skills and engagement. And we are happy that we were able to deliver, and I will give you also some detailed insights to what the seniors have told us and ask for as some of the parts of maybe new activities in the future. Altogether, we had 50 activities in all partner countries. Although it was planned to have the peak of the activities in June and July, we have started earlier, already in April. And as Croatia was coordinating this O2, we started and we had pilot workshops in Croatia, and that way we were able to change a little bit, adjust the workshops that we have planned to be able to deliver them on the wider context within our partner countries. We had very good cooperation with local partners. I will say on the example of Croatia that we were happy to establish a very good cooperation with retirement home St. Anna that has more than 300 participants and users, but also with the foundation Joint Path, where we had maybe smaller groups, also very active in a totally different context. So I'm especially grateful to them because they were able to accept our workshops and definitely help us as one of the most important partners at that moment. And we have even after the end of the project this month, we will continue our cooperation next year. And I would definitely like to mention also that this wouldn't be possible if we didn't have a huge support from the city of Zagreb. We were combining online and offline activities in pandemic time. As I said, in most of the countries, we were not able to have face-to-face workshops, one-on-one workshops. It was not possible due to epidemiological reasons and restrictions. But however, still we managed at least to have a smaller number of that kind of workshops. And altogether, just by looking at all these activities, we could say that we had almost 400 direct participants. We were not counting here those that participated through our B-learning course or those that participated in some other online activities, because we have also produced webinars. So I think that this audience will multiply, and definitely in the time in front of us, we will also disseminate these kind of activities. So I think that the sustainability of this project is maybe one of its key points, because we have really made a huge network that has actually become part of our partners in the project. Webinars had a multiple audience, and as I said, sustainability as the main criteria. So when we look at the topics, Alenka already mentioned, and Maria, Jose, and Anna as well, that our focus was on 6 most important topics for us as planned within the project proposal: disinformation and fake news, social media and good manners, privacy and digital footprint, very important topic for us. Then the role and the influence of influencers, civic engagement, and clickbaits in social media. And as we prepared the templates for these workshops, each partner on each partner country had adjusted them to their local contexts. So maybe this is the most important outcome in O2, because really we now have 6 different approaches to these 6 topics, which is something that is very important, and even something that we can use in the future. And I'm 100% sure that this will definitely initiate some other activities as well. Just to give a small insight into these activities, I will show the first slide of each presentation focusing on disinformation and fake news, to have it in front of you and to see really the different approach that we were able to nourish from 6 different contexts on different languages, with the idea to make it even more visible to the audience and to the general public. Our project in Croatia was co-financed by the government of the Republic of Croatia through the Office for Cooperation with NGOs. And as I said, also it was co-financed by City of Zagreb. On the right side of this slide, you see the example of face-to-face workshops, one-on-one, where our colleague, communication science student, is giving instructions to a specific end-user participant. These questions were so interesting. You will see some of them in 1 minute's time. And maybe for me personally, this was maybe the most interesting part of our workshops, to see how detailed questions they have, and how huge support they need from us in small matters from our perspective, but in a totally important approach from their perspective, especially in times of pandemic. And I personally learned a lot. Although I thought I knew so many things about this before, when I heard about their perspective and problems, this was really interesting. Here are some questions that we received from our end user participants. Can you please teach me how to make my own Facebook profile, but without being visible to the others? Can you help me with cookies? I would like to open my eCitizen profile. How hard is it? Or I would like to learn more about the influencers. I will also mention another question, and this was especially from the retirement home St. Anna, where one user came and she asked, I would like to listen to the music in the same time while I'm writing something on Word program application on my tablet, and it is not possible. Can you help me solve this problem? Now, this was not something that I would expect, and even my colleagues, when we made the evaluation of the workshops, we were surprised to see how focused these questions were, and the wide spectrum of these questions as well, because they are not focused only on skills, but also on the rights perspective. As Anna said in the beginning, this is especially important for today when we are discussing all these important issues. We also have raised the important approach to speak about the experience from the perspective of our volunteers. And we made some dissemination material where we have asked our volunteers to give their evaluation, what they have learned. And this was very, very important thing for us, because we wanted in this way also to raise the importance of intergenerational cooperation, which was maybe one of the most important things about our project. I will now play just one short question of one user in Croatia, a participant in joint foundation, joint pet, and it was very, very appealing. So it's very short and I will translate it then to you.
Ne volim kad otvorim jedan naslov članka, a tekst nema veze sa tim člankom. U čemu je problem?
So this is about the clickbait context, and she is complaining that she doesn't like the situation when she is exposed to a specific content on the internet where headline is misleading, and when she opens and clicks on a specific article, then she is surprised to see that it's totally different to what has been announced through the headline. We have other experiences as well, and we don't have enough time today to showcase them all. So I'm just finishing with several pictures that are from our workshops. This is maybe one of the workshops we had the biggest number of participants, and it was from the retirement home St. Anna in Zagreb. Altogether, they have more than 300 participants, and we had 20 participants present on our workshops according to epidemiological restrictions, definitely, and we were always paying attention to this the best way we can. It was also good to see that they asked for more. All our participants saw great opportunity in these workshops, and even after the end of the project, they have said that they want to learn more and that they would like to have cooperation with us even at the beginning of the next year. So we are planning already activities, how to include them and how to even have that kind of sustainability after the official end of our project. As I'm showing the pictures from these kind of consultations, I would definitely like to emphasize that we have managed to hear their problems, their experience, and we can learn a lot from their life experience, and we just need to put this into the digital context. And that way I definitely can give arguments that even our colleagues, volunteers have learned a lot while sharing the expertise and the lessons learned with colleagues participating in the workshops. So definitely it's important to focus on a broad set of digital knowledge and skills. It's not just about the approach, it's not just about the usage of a specific media content. That's why we need a big course in order to provide them a long-term support to work on their competences. Older people do not always consider WhatsApping or emailing as digital activities. This was also eye-opening, and we learned a lot even in this perspective. Although I would like to say that maybe what we saw while working with them in our everyday contact is that in times of pandemic, when we had a lockdown, WhatsApp, Viber, Telegram, Signal, Skype, Zoom, Uvu, Blue Jeans were the only applications that made it possible for them to be connected with the society, as they were not able to meet their relatives in person, their friends in person. It was really important for them to know how to use all these platforms in order to be able to communicate. So I think this was very, very important thing of our project. They always asked for long-term support. As you know, the problem with all projects is that they end at a specific time, and we need to find the possibilities how to keep them going. It's not just about fulfilling the criteria of sustainability, it's really about being there for them. And we will do our best, especially in cooperation with our partners from the project, to continue to work and to provide them long-term support. They really want to be active, engaged, these citizens. As we had elections at that time of pandemic in Croatia, it was important for them to be able to check their status on the e-citizens platform. So we already helped in this relation as well. And finally, there are differences in usage and perspective of end users between countries. We have learned this through all our experience of 50 activities that we have produced throughout Europe. So at the end, I'm definitely very happy that we had the opportunity to participate in this project. I'm trying to motivate you to look at what we have produced, not just the activity 1 or 2 or all those others that you will learn in the next minutes. I definitely think that this is maybe becoming the central, the key point, the hub of the intergenerational community on the European level. And I definitely think that SMaRT-EU project will have its bright future even after the official end of the project. Thank you a lot for your participation and waiting to hear comments and questions.
I suggest to go to our next speaker, to Marju Himma-Kadakas, who will be talking today about her lessons on activities. Dr. Marju Himma-Kadakas is currently a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Karlstad, where her research is part of the Ender Center for Research on News and Opinions in the Digital Era, also known as NODE, if I pronounce it well, or NODE. She's also a part-time research fellow of journalism studies at the University of Tartu, Estonia. And she is the Estonian PI at the international project Journalistic Role Performance. Marju will be telling us more about YouTube news and intergenerational focus interviews. I can imagine also new in this Corona and COVID time. This is a very interesting and hot topic. Marju, I'm very pleased to give you the virtual floor.
Thank you, Joyce, for this introduction. And yes, it's very nice to be with you here. And it's actually very nice to wrap up this long and very different project that we've had so far. Yes, so as this part of the, I'm sorry, you're seeing my last slide. Let me do a recorrection here. Let's start with the first slide, which is that one here. And let's move on to the next one, which is what we did in the part that we called initially in the project YouTube News, but is more developed into a YouTube video tool that can be used in intergenerational communication. So what we did is that in collaboration with the Estonian influencer and journalist Kaili Sügiainen, we produced 3 media and information literacy videos that can be used as a intergenerational learning tool. The videos cover topics on influencers, more precisely how influencers make a living and how their lifestyle different from celebrities that have of course existed for decades, and how different generations perceive influencers as such. As we heard from Igor's presentation as well, especially the seniors were interested in who are the influencers, and so our part of the project kind of introduced this concept also to different generations. Secondly, we produced a video on exposure to news and fake news, and the third video with the influencer was about intergenerational communication habits. And the videos contained certain topics and amount of information that was in some points more familiar to the teenagers and in some points more familiar to the seniors. And for these reasons, the videos can be used as a tool to spark intergenerational discussion over the aforementioned topics. These videos are accompanied by questions that, for example, a grandchild and grandparent can ask each other after they have watched these videos together. So basically, you can go to the SMaRT-EU project webpage, find the YouTube's video tools there and watch these videos together with different generations, and then have discussion afterwards with those questions that are followed by the videos. So we also tested this tool as a component in the intergenerational and professional focus interview groups. And all the project partners conducted altogether 16 intergenerational focus groups with family members and 6 focus groups with adult professionals. The intergenerational focus interviews had 34 participants from 5 different countries, and professional focus groups had 24 participants. And the general objective was to find out if intergenerationally shared news experience or video experience can be used to promote the resilience to information disorder or different sorts of information disorders like fake news or misinformation. And can this tool be used to enhance overall news consumption? So, as said, the videos we tested in the intergenerational and adult professional focus interviews, and in this highlight here, I'm going to focus more on the intergenerational focus interviews and less on the professional focus groups. And I highlight here 3 key findings that I think several professionals who work with young or the seniors can make use of in their everyday working practice. So the first take-home message here is that influencers are nothing new. The topic, not the person, promotes the discussion. So what I mean by that is, as media practitioners have long been interested in how effective it is to use influencers in delivering messages. Well, based on our results, we can say that influencers, especially intergenerationally well-known influencers, help to deliver the message. And here I have to say that our influencer also is a former journalist, a news reporter. So different generations know her from different media. So this is why she was also intergenerationally well known. But it doesn't mean that if she's currently an influencer, the same effect could be achievable with any celebrities, actors, musicians, opinion leaders, etc. The importance is the trustworthiness of the particular influencer. In intergenerational discussions, influencers' message was recognized just as a discussion point familiar to both the grandparent and the grandchild. Therefore, promoting the intergenerational information exchange, the reliable message is the central connection point to spark the communication. However, it may also be currently most popular TikTok video or traditional news story or newspapers or television. It can be anything. It just has to be relatable to both generations. So the second highlight I would like to make is that understanding of news is limited, and it's limited with conventional genres and formats, and this is a problem. And this is I'm going to elaborate on this more here. Also showing the drawings that the focus interview participants made. We can see from here that while asked where the participants were exposed to news, participants, they visualized platforms that are related to traditional journalistic news media, news content. However, we know that news repertoires are much wider than just traditional media, and this is also a problem. So people do relate news to traditional news media, but they are exposed to fake news and disinformation and all other sorts of that sort of misinformation or any other information disorder in several platforms that they do not perceive as news. So though people generally perceive news as new information, they also have a rather conventional understanding of what news is. And this understanding often stems from traditional media news genres and formats. This is important as exposure to new information, but also to false information. It takes place in several forums and genres on multiple platforms. And people do not perceive exposure to new information as news on social media or in personal interaction. Therefore, it is essential to discuss this topic in schools and mill training. Both young and seniors need to understand that they are exposed to all sorts of new information that can be trustworthy, but can also be misleading and harmful. The perception of diversity of new information is the basis for a personal evaluation of information quality. And this is the basis of any media and information literacy activity. And the third message from our study would be that intergenerational information exchange enhances both news consumption and verification of any new information. So what do we mean by that? The generational differences in knowledge enrich the interpretation of the information. Nevertheless, this information exchange has prerequisites. First, intergenerational communication is effective only between acquaintances from different generations. For example, it functions well between grandparents and grandchildren from the same family, but probably it would be complicated between unfamiliar teens who visit the senior home for the first time. Sorry, I have to ask, do you see my PowerPoint, and do you hear me correctly? Because I can see that there are some, okay, good to know then. Yes, the second prerequisite for intergenerational information exchange is the arrangement and agreement on communication means. This means that it has to be negotiated and agreed upon on both sides. How do the young and the elderly communicate to each other? The most preferred way for discussion over the news is in real life, face-to-face. This way of communication became exceptionally valued and appreciated during COVID-19 social distancing times, as several families communicate digitally. The selection of communication channels need to be openly discussed. In other words, it is wise to ask what platform and what channel to use at which time. The seniors are usually relatively open-minded towards video and chat applications in their close ones, if their close ones have assisted them in using these apps. And I think here a very valuable input also came from what Igor said, that in the retirement homes, people actually ask very simple questions on usability of tools and applications. And if they are assisted in that, they are also very open-minded about using digital platforms and digital devices. But the main hindrance why the seniors tend not to use, for example, video calling apps or chat apps is that they do not know the most suitable time to reach out to the younger relatives. They feel that contacting at an inappropriate time will interfere with the young. And this issue could also be solved by simple discussion and agreement on suitable times for communication. So overall, we can conclude that intergenerational communication is an effective way to promote everyday news consumption, diversify the understanding of news and also who are influencers, and ground the risk for misinterpretations of information. And also alongside in this communication, it also helps to verify the information. All this increases the resilience towards harmful consequences of information disorder. And with those three take-home messages, the central message is still may the facts be with you. And now's the time also to answer your questions.
Let me introduce Angela in the meantime. Angela is a qualified teacher with an MA in special education needs, experience in secondary and further education. And since 2009, she has worked as European projects coordinator for Wales and Spain, based education research company Pontydysgu, I think it's Welsh, Pontydysgu. Her specialist area includes technology-enhanced learning, teacher training in ICT and digital media, and information literacy. Angela, I'm curious to hear more about SMaRT-EU best practices. The virtual floor is yours.
Good. So I had the nice but also very difficult job of compiling the best practices of the SMaRT-EU year. But there was just so many great products and great tools that it was really difficult to condense those. So we've ended up with lots of things altogether. So we have the best practices, online publication. So it's just a page on the website with the highlights, the results of the project. So it actually ends up being a resource in its own right. It showcases the good practices from the SMaRT-EU year, gives tips and insights to those who want to use our resources and their own practices as educators or researchers or just individuals who are interested. Also contains information like the SMaRT-EU team's personal highlights, testimonials from participants, and then there's a guide to sustainability and field notes from practice. So we start out with an overview of the results. I made some infographics. So at the time when I made these, we had done over 69 hours of workshops with 384 participants in 6 countries. But because this is an ongoing project, those numbers are just constantly increasing. So even if I update them, they're going to be out of date again, which is good news for the project. We have, I've just realised it's not my screen that's sharing, is it, or there's a delay? Doesn't matter, you can see that, as long as you can see that, that's fine. So the YouTube video tool that Marju was just speaking about, when I was counting, there were 61 participants between 7 and 85 years of age. So I reckon that's roughly 1,307 minutes of conversation in focus groups, which is lovely. And again, that number increasing. And then for the B-Learning course, with 5 interactive modules, over 30 activities. And then we had the guide that Anna was talking about earlier, the guide on disinformation and social media with, at the time, 22 resources for young people, 49 old people, 96 for educators, 118 intergenerational resources. But these numbers are already out of date, and after today I hope they'll be even more out of date because we'd like you to add your resources so that we can update it. So we asked the SMaRT-EU project team to share their favourite tool from the project and to explain why it was their favourite tool. And the guide contains excerpts from the quotes that they gave back, and then there's a link to the resources that they relate to, so they look a bit like this. Okay, so we had somebody said that the workshops were one of the most challenging outputs of the project. They provide food for thought in diverse aspects of media literacy and digital society. They said it's a truly multilingual tool that can be used with different end users, from the most skilled to the less skilled users. And then there's a comment on the guide on disinformation and social media. They explained a repository of materials for young and old people, educators, and with an intergenerational approach. Brings together existing materials and others that have been created as an output of the project in diverse languages. And their comment was, this tool allows the aggregation of the various existing materials in the area that can be used in different contexts and with different end users. In addition, it can be used to understand the existing gaps that the project can fill. So there are about 8 of these comments, 9 of these comments that I've added to the guide, which you can see on the website. And almost every person that responded from the team had a different favourite. But if I picked the words out of them and made them into a cloud so that we could see the common words, and it's just, I think it's quite interesting that all these things are quite key, quite core to the project. There's the intergenerational aspect, focus, influences, and there's a very good sort of 50-50 mix of project words and people words. So the team noticed the favourite things or core aspects, and the participants are like as important as the resources. Okay, then there should be a video on sustainability which explains the ways which we intended to make the project sustainable in the coming years. So the whole best practices guide is part of that sustainability process. By highlighting what went well and sharing our experiences from the chalk face of excuse me, of running the workshops and our day-to-day experiences working with participants, we were hoping that we could enthuse and inspire others. And so there's a video which lists ways that you can get involved. And so there are lots of ways that you can contribute to the sustainability of the project, such as contributing resources to the repository. There's a link on the guide where you can do this. You can sign up for the newsletter. There's a link on the website. The course is easy to enroll on. You just click the button. In fact, you don't even need to click the button. You can just scroll through the slides. All of the presentations and the resources are included on the website, so you can run the workshops for yourselves. But please, if you do that, let us know how it goes. If anybody could translate the resources into another language and we could then include them on the site, that would help. And just get in touch with us about working together in the future. If you've benefited from the project, share your testimonial with us, write a short text or record a video and we can share that. And talk to us about any future project ideas you might have. And then do engage with our social media channels. And if you share any content you find useful, please tag us. So we also have a section which is field notes. We asked the team to give feedback on their experience over the year with particular emphasis on participants, intergenerational workshop groups, focus groups and the experts, and their responses are quite interesting. They've just picked out a couple to share here, but there's quite a lot of reading on the site if you go to it yourself. So the question was, did you learn anything surprising from the participants? And one of the answers, we were either confronted with a conservative discourse that understands news as the contents produced by journalists and communication professionals, or with a discourse that describes news with a broader and freer vision, and there was no middle ground. It was conservative or the opposite. Some people were genuinely only interested in pictures of cats and other people's meals, and they weren't interested in the news at all. And in one conversation with an expert on deepfakes, the expert explained that often we don't actually need new legislation, we need to implement the existing legislation. I'm giving the example of image ownership legislation. So the deepfakes mostly don't actually have the rights to use those images. So we will all learn from the project. And we don't expect you to take our word for it, so we also collected testimonials from participants. There are a series of videos and also a series of quotes, which is, we learned, and it is very important to learn until we die. And schools should be using the resources. Media literacy is critical in so many areas. People say it's just politics, but it's our health and our planet too. Finally, the SMaRT-EU partners described their highlights and results from the year. Partners were keen to include what they had learned during the process, such as there's an urgent need to provide support and help to elderly people in digital environments. And those who previously worked in professions that had at least some contact with media, information and communication technologies and social sciences or STEM, they have a better background and prerequisites for easier navigation in digital world. So these are the older people. If they'd already had some background in information communication technology, they seem to navigate better in the digital world. And experts pointed out a change not only in media literacy skills of young people, but in youth literacy in general, which made it harder for young people to play an active role in society. And you can see all of these on the site. And then we finished up, because most projects have a guide and then a glossary at the end, where we thought it would be more useful to create another useful resource. So we have a media resilience resource, and each of our keywords is linked to a resource like a website, an article, a blog, rather than a description. But you can explore these all for yourself on the website. That's the SMaRT Toolkit EU/best practices 2, or just follow the links from the main screen. So that's a whistle-stop overview of the whole project via the best practices, and if there are any questions for me or for the previous speakers, I'd love to hear them and love to answer them. Let me stop and share.